Welcome to Bloom Today. We have a royal show for you. We're going to be talking about choosing God instead of suicide.
Hi, I'm Paula Wallace, president of Bloom in the Dark, and this is
Ginnie Priz, the single-handed serenity coach. Welcome to Bloom Today, where we talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal,
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. Welcome everybody, so glad you joined us. Today we are talking about choosing God instead of suicide. And that's something I have in my past, the temptation to end it all and give up on it. Have you ever thought of that, Ginny?
I mean, I think I've considered, like, what would it be like, you know, in my darkest hours, you know, what if I could I do this? Could this be an out for me? And definitely in moments where there was depression and early stages of recovery and PMS definitely gave me even more depression than I had ever experienced ever. I think there were moments where I prayed, you know, God, if I'm ready to go home whenever you want to take me. It's totally okay if you take me tonight. It's totally okay if I don't have to go through another day. But that's about as close as I've gotten. I don't think I could. I ever got to the point where I never made a plan or anything like that. Did you get to that point?
Well, see, I believed that suicide was murder.
Okay.
And therefore, because my training and background in the Bible and everything, so it was an absolute no-no. But I had this idea that if somebody else killed me, it was okay. So kind of a twisted spin on it. And so in the middle of the Canadian wilderness, I decided one day when I was done. I was just done with everything, the pain, the brokenness, the accusations, I just had no hope at that time.
And you were out there for college, right? If I remember
correctly.
correctly.
I was out there for college, like I was in Canada for a good reason. But
you were just in the wild. You didn't travel to the wild.
I didn't travel to the wild to do this, but about a mile away from where I was staying, they had repeated bear sightings at this one location. So when I decided I was finished, I started walking there. Because
towards the bears.
Towards the bears. I was going to find a bear who was going to end it. And I know that sounds really, really foolish when you talk about it in that kind of setting.
No, I mean,
but at the time,
bears are a problem. I mean, you're walking towards actual danger. I mean, we laugh now, but
no, but grizzly bears, like real ones.
That's huge. That is a big deal. That is, you know, like someone suicide by cop has been done frequently in the past, and we know this is a real thing. People do go ahead and choose these things.
Right, and so it was me putting myself in danger with the hope that somebody else would take my life, because then my life could be over without me being guilty of having killed myself, which isn't any better than any other twisted version that Satan throws at us for why it's okay.
Right.
For us to end it, to escape, to get out. And the funny thing about my story in that particular instance was I was yelling at God about how he couldn't hold me accountable. Because of all the people that had hurt me and abused me and done me harm, it was their fault. So they were to blame if I died. And then seeing God just put in my heart that they were accountable, yes, for what they had done to me.
Sure.
But if I let it come between me and him, then I was accountable. And that just kept coming back. The more I argued, the more, and I was yelling and stomping and acting out. I was just so finished. And it really sunk into me that I was the one choosing self-destruction.
Right. At the end of the day, it was still your choice to be put in harm's way.
Which was no different than committing suicide any other way. And when that kind of got through the fog and started sinking in, I stopped and stomped my feet and argued a little bit more and ended up turning around and going back. And by God's grace, I turned around before a bear found me.
Praise God.
Or that would have been the end of my story there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad you're here with me. But I remember in my darkest places feeling that hopelessness, that my story ended here. There was nothing better to come. There was always going to be this pain. There was always going to be this hopelessness, and I could not see past that at all. And it was the enemy putting that. You talked about the fog, but putting that focus on me and my pain in this instant, and it all seemed like that was everything else instead. I just could not see beyond it. But the truth is, there's so much beyond it that God has for us. And if He woke us up this morning, He's got some plan that He wants us to be a part of.
Right, but it is where the trite answers, the simplistic answers, the, oh, don't worry, it'll be better tomorrow. No, tomorrow might be worse.
Right.
It's not that circumstances are going to get better.
Right.
It was me having to understand that God could carry me through those circumstances, that He could meet me in that darkest pain when it feels like a black hole that's just swirling and sucking you under, and there's no coming back up from that. And I've had multiple instances in my life at different points where the hopelessness hit that level. And it has gone back to, God, either you come in and do something, or I'm done. Like, I humanly can't do this anymore.
Right.
But God has been faithful, or I wouldn't be here having this wonderful time hanging out with you in a kitchen on a TV show.
Talking about suicide, yay!
It's such a difficult subject.
Yes, but at least being here, there is hopefully this moment where we can tell people there is hope on the other side of that, and that it won't always be the way it is today.
No. And that's the part where understanding that there are truths that go beyond today's pain or today's darkness, truths that are, there can be purpose that comes out of our pain. We're sitting here talking about our pain episode after episode and talking about how God brings in healing, how God brings in change, how He has some way to use that pain to benefit somebody else.
I love the quote from Troy that says, our greatest hurt becomes our greatest passion. And I think that is so true for me, but I've seen it happen over and over again, that when we're finally able to turn to God and He helps us to walk out of that painful place, then He uses that pain to be part of our purpose and part of our journey moving forward. Romans 5:3-5, right? Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us.
And hope is one of those things where we don't end it all when we have hope. We only want to end it all when we feel hopeless.
Yes.
And that's the part where building those steps and leaning into suffering, because the fact is, we've got to give God our futures anyway.
Oh my gosh, yes. So difficult sometimes.
Yeah, even when I'm hurting the most, or let's say you're even in a successful place, what about tomorrow? Well, you could lose it all tomorrow. It could all change tomorrow. It could get worse tomorrow. And I get to give God tomorrow. He says, take no thought for tomorrow. So I'm going, okay, God, today, can you carry me today? Can you help me survive this pain for the next minute, the next 30 seconds, shoot, the next 5 seconds?
Right.
Can you get me through this, and continue to ask and lean into Him and into that process with the future, the hope part being His.
Right. Because we never know what that's going to look like, what the future is going to look like, but we can trust that He's going to meet us there, and that He's not going to leave us every step of the way, and He's going to be right there beside us.
So, yeah, in Philippians 1:6, where it says, being confident of this very thing, that He who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. There is no need for it to be an end. It can just be today as the next step. Next part of my training, next part of my survival, next part of my growth.
Right. He's the one that has to bring me through it. He's the one that has to fulfill my purpose and walk through it. Not me. My job is to just show up and take the next step and do the next right thing, and then watch how He works in that process.
And so our value comes, like, Christ's death is the biggest thing that signified to me that he went through separation from God. He went through all of the pain. He went through coming to earth at all, with the whole point being for him to die and deal with that excruciating pain that makes me want to end it all. That he carried that pain on the cross.
Amen.
Because he valued me so much more.
Yes.
And that starts changing that perspective of there being no value to my life, there being no value because I'm too broken.
Someone died for you. That's a high price to pay, because he loved us so much that he was willing to say, okay, I'm willing to go through all of this pain that you may be going through, another version of it. It doesn't look exactly the way our story looks, but that pain of betrayal, that pain of being left alone, to be on this cross and to say, I'm willing to go through all of this, to be separated from, as you said, to be separated from God.
It says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Sorry,
Yeah.
King James again. But that forsaken part is a big piece of why we're hopeless a lot of times.
Yeah.
We feel abandoned and lost and broken and abused and hurt, and that leads to hopelessness.
Which is a horrible place to be, but it's not the end of the story. That's
It's not
never
the end of
the
the story.
story.
And that's the amazing part, is that it doesn't have to be. And we talk about this more in our coaching.
In our coaching tool, absolutely, which is available online on our website, bloomtodaytv.com. We have a coaching tool that's just a couple pages, a couple worksheets there where you can walk through this lesson and dig into these Bible verses a little bit more. We'll ask you some questions to help you apply it to your life, and then give you some exercises to help you move from that place of hopelessness to a place of hope. So go ahead and check that out, bloomtodaytv.com.
And we have a guest today who's actually so cool. I'm excited because we get to have a princess on our show.
She's a real life princess.
Like,
Did you want to be a princess when you were growing up?
oh, of course. We all want to be princesses
I
when
totally
we're growing up.
Yeah, I totally wanted to be a princess. So for someone who has a background of not just being a princess, but someone who's actually dealt with and flirted with the idea of suicide.
And has her doctorate and has all kinds of other things that I think all happened after.
Yes.
So there's a story
an
here.
author, a screenwriter, entrepreneur.
And helps other people do all those things too.
Yes.
Like that's pretty incredible. And what would have happened if she wasn't around to do all these amazing things?
We'll never know. Thank God.
Because she stayed around.
Princess Fumi Hancock, would you
Yay.
please come and join us? I'm
Yay,
so
I'm
excited
so
to have
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you for having
Welcome,
me.
welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
We are so
Thank you.
thrilled to have a real life princess
Thank you
here.
for having me.
We had
All
to
right,
look very
let's do
far
this.
and wide
Oh, I know, right?
to find a real life princess.
I'm glad you found me.
We are so thrilled.
I'm glad you found me.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about where you are from?
Okay, so I'm from the southwestern region of Nigeria, where my family has actually ruled since the 1280s. So that's kind of cool.
Wow,
That's a few
that's a
hundred
long
years.
royal
I thought
line
it was
there.
1400s until one day my father visited and said, I said, what? I said, what? I said, 1280 is not 14. Know your history.
That's almost a couple hundred years
I
there
know,
that
right?
you
So
had.
since then, so he made sure that when I went back home, he showed me the whole thing. I said, okay, Dad, I'm not going to forget it anymore. So thank you for the history.
And your outfit symbolizes some
yeah,
of that, right?
Yeah, a lot of the things that I wear, even here in America, because, you know, I've been in the States for more than 30 years now, but I went back home after 23 years of hiatus. And just being ingrained back into the culture. And so this is part of what I wear. You know that I'm always like that on TV and things like that. And so this is one of the things that was woven in the palace for me by the palace women.
Oh, wow.
The king, who is my uncle, he is the current king. He has a group of people that weave for the queen. And when I go home to do some celebrations and so they have mine too. So I'm like, okay, thank you.
That is so awesome.
Thank you for giving me
beautiful.
some. Yeah, thank you.
And do you ever wear a tiara or wear
No,
head?
what I have is beaded. It's it's not a tiara like you have here, but it's beads.
Okay.
That you would
Ours
wear.
is, yeah, so I don't wear it here, but when I'm home doing my
Stately, official
duties,
rites.
then I get to wear it. And a lot of times, now the king that I have right now is pretty cool, so I don't have to do it
All the time.
So he's cool. He's cool. So I don't have to do it. So thank God for that.
The value of not always having to do the proper state.
He's the born again Christian, so that should tell you a whole lot right
Oh,
there.
that's awesome.
Wonderful.
He's the
That's such a
Bible carrying king, so that would tell you a whole lot about that. So,
What a blessing.
yeah.
That is awesome.
So now you have had this, what we would assume as a blessed life as a princess. I mean, isn't that what every girl wants to have?
Yeah.
And yet, you, in your story, have considered suicide. How do you get to that place?
Well, one thing I always tell people is that being born into royalty does not exempt you from abuse. In fact, in a lot of cultures, African culture and all this kind of culture where you have multiple wives and you have all those things going on, there's a lot of taboo, there's a lot of secrets that's hidden. And part of it is sexual abuse. Part of it is all those things, but it is a taboo to talk about it.
Right.
But so for myself, what I actually encountered was here, having married here and at a very young age, and I had told my dad I was coming back home, never went back home, fell in love, and a lot of things happened. He was young, I was young. He was crazy, I was more crazy. I mean, things were just happening, and when abuse became an issue of a daily thing for me, I could not go back home to tell my royal family that I had failed.
Right.
Because it was a marriage that they had questioned.
Right.
They thought, okay, if you were getting married, try and marry at a certain level. And I was trying to save a life through marriage. I was crazy, trying to save somebody through marriage. I mean, that's a wrong approach right there.
Right.
I agree. Not uncommon, though.
It happens more often than
Yeah. And so I thought I had it made. I thought I thought I had my soulmate. I thought, so I could not go back home. And because I couldn't go back home, I had to stay here and just face all the abuse, both from the man and other things. Lost my home, lost businesses. I mean, it was pretty rough. At some point, I literally lost my mind. And I'm not talking about, lost my mind. I was out. And after 6 months, I came through, and thank God for the church women that were around me. When I remember coming through, and I woke up, I was looking for my two boys. They were then 2.5 and 1. And I kept saying, where are my boys? Where are my boys? And they said, don't worry, we have them. And I tell you, but the grace of God that took me out of that insanity. And to be the top employer in the place who employed literally almost everybody there, and then turn out to be somebody who is now going back to your employees and seeking help. It was rough. And so that was the moment I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I can't go back home to Africa to tell them what had happened. I have these two babies that I have to feed, and I don't know how to feed them. I'm done. And so I found myself on Verrazano Bridge. You know Verrazano Bridge?
I do.
And I'm telling you, I was at the ledge.
Yes.
My foot, I had my foot to the pedal. I literally had my foot to the pedal. And how many of you know that God will speak to you with what you love? I love films. So God decided to take a film reel to speak to me. All I needed to do was release the pedal. And right at that point of releasing the pedal, I saw a film reel, and it was my children crying. Every segment was them crying, crying. And I heard the Holy Ghost say, is this the legacy? A legacy of suicide? Is this what you want to leave for your children? Do you understand that your children will always blame themselves and say they were never enough for this?
Wow.
And I'm telling you, I heard that, I pushed that pedal, and I stayed and said, whatever it is, I'm ready to face it, just for my children.
Wow.
But God does meet us where we're at.
That's right.
When it feels like all hope is lost,
right.
He can meet us there. And
right.
He gave you exactly what you needed.
Oh yeah, my children.
In that moment.
Yeah, that's right.
which it's the places where somebody has ended up being seduced into the lie that ending it all will fix everything.
That's right.
To be able to talk to somebody who didn't follow through, that God stopped it, and then to be able to see the before and after. Because the after part includes the book that we have of yours.
Yes.
Your vision torch.
Release your vision torch.
That's right.
Tell us about this. A blueprint for success.
Oh my goodness. So after I got off the ledge of Horizontal Bridge, so I thought to myself, okay, gee, I mean, God showed me this, so there must be something great coming. Of course, it got worse, right? And so I had to relocate, and I could not, even with my master's degree, I could not find any job in Jersey. Well, Jersey. I want to put it in Jersey. I could not find any. None. But there was this man who had a convenience store. I will forever be grateful, an Indian man. And he said to me, look, I don't have a cashier job, but I have a job for you. If you can come in every night, graveyard shift, and clean the inside of the deep freezer. So people on Periscope and my brokers know me. They call me the deep freezer lady. And so they all know my story about the deep freezer. And I said, what do you mean the deep freezer? They said, yeah, the deep freezer. If you can, I'll pay you to do that. And I said, well, I mean, it's better than nothing. So I would literally go in. But do you understand that when you are in pain, I could not even feel. I mean, it's so amazing. It's a deep freezer, and I could not even feel the cold. That was how much pain I was in. And I would remember every night I would go in because, well, it's graveyard shift. It was just me in there. Nobody else was there. And I would literally roll on the floor, one side to the other. And I kept saying, God, show me. You either get me out of this world or you show me something. And I went through that, and that was when the vision torch. And he said, let me give you a success blueprint. I'm going to give you an exit strategy out of poverty. I'm going to give you an exit strategy out of poverty of your mindset, starting from that, and out of poverty. And God began to give me that in that deep freezer. And that's how I got that. And since then, I'm telling you, this book has literally, people write me from all over the world and tell me, oh my God, they always have one or two things they tell me about that because they could relate to that.
Is your story in here as well?
Oh yeah, the deep freezer story. The deep freezer is in there. I'm the deep freezer. Look, I wear it well. I'm the deep freezer lady.
But it's amazing how when you were on that bridge, you had no understanding or vision of what God's purpose for you was. But God had so much more for you, and not just for you, but for a lot of other people through you. And it's when we're in that dark place, we can't see past the pain and the darkness to have a clue that God could have a beautiful future and take that pain and brokenness to help us relate to other people, to help show them His heart.
I wouldn't even believe it. And that's the truth. If anybody had come to me on the bridge and say, hey, guess what? He got plans for you, I probably would have punched them right in the face. And said, what you mean planned? I'm homeless, number one, right? I have babies to feed, nowhere to feed them. You're telling me what? Who, what, who had what?
Right.
So you never know. You just never know. But now I look back at what God has done in my life and the lives of people that He has drawn to me on a daily basis. And I say, my goodness, through my movies, through all that, it's just amazing to see and now they call me the vision midwife. And I said, oh, I wear that well too. Thank you. I'll take it. You know, vision lady, okay, I'll take it. And it's just amazing. And that's how I listen to everybody out there, that don't give up. Don't throw in the towel right at the point of breakthrough, because that ledge was my point of breakthrough, a point of decision, right?
Oh, yeah.
And if I had taken the other one, my goodness, imagine the number of people that would not have had the opportunity to really even get that blessing from that.
because God has a plan, he has a vision,
That's
he had
right.
a purpose,
That's right.
but you still had a choice to make.
Yes, it's your choice.
Oh my gosh. And I'm sure in that moment, that was still a very difficult choice.
Oh, I tell you what, even after I got off the ledge, I was still afraid because I was going back to homelessness. My home had been taken away from me. Everything that I knew that I had, that I worked out for, had been stripped away from me. So I didn't even know where I was going. It was still incredibly dark.
Right. And that's why we walk by faith.
That's right.
And not by sight.
That's right.
Because when we
Thank
look with
God.
our eyes and
Thank
see what's
God.
in front of us, it doesn't look so hopeful.
That's right.
Our hope is in him, in our faith, and where he's bringing us.
Absolutely.
And you are a testament to the fact that
thank you.
we just don't know where he's going to take us, and in what crazy directions we can go.
But more importantly, that it's not about your royalty. It's not about, because we are royalty. We're all
In
princess
Christ,
in Christ.
Yeah.
So it's not about your background, because I've defied that even born in royal family did not exempt me from suicide ideation.
Right.
It did not exempt me from abuse, because I was listening to you too. I was sexually abused at 5 years old too.
Right.
So go figure.
Right.
So it didn't. That didn't stop
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
So by the time I was being abused as a wife, I thought, well, maybe this is just the deal.
Right, and you deserve it.
Yeah.
Except that's all lies, because nobody deserves
That's right.
that pain. Nobody deserves that abuse.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter what position you have. And we all believe, well, if I was a princess, then I wouldn't have to go through that. And you're sitting here going, oh, no, I am a princess, and I've had to go through.
That's right.
Not exempt from brokenness, not exempt from reality.
No.
The horrors of this world, but also that also makes you not exempt from the hope that is available
Amen to that.
as well.
Amen to
That's
that.
amazing.
Amen to that.
We want to celebrate you. Thank you so much
thank
for
you so much.
sharing,
Thank
Princess
you for having
Fumi.
me. Thank you
And
so much for having
we
me.
have a gift for you as
I
the
was waiting on that.
ex-victim of the week.
I actually was waiting on it because I've watched the show.
You get the chocolates.
And so, but I had the chocolate. So I watched the show, so I was like,
So
okay,
as you
yes,
process
I'm gonna
through
have
some
the
of these
chocolates.
emotions, yes, there's chocolates and tissues just for you.
And your ex-victim necklace, which is your symbol of Christ coming in and helping you bloom despite the fact
thank you.
that you have been a victim.
Thank you
And
so
we're just
much.
so excited to celebrate
Thank you so much.
with the brokenness that we hate anybody ever has or has to go through, but having been there and knowing that the hope is in Christ. The hope is in a relationship with God, and you're such a beautiful
thank you.
image
Thank
of
you.
what God can do
Thank you.
when
Thank
we
you. I
lean into
appreciate
Him
it. Thank
instead
you.
of instead of giving up.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to those lies that we hear
Yes,
over and
yes,
over again.
yes.
And we can continue to bloom and flourish
Absolutely.
and share with the world through books, through film, and through fashion even, that we are princesses in God's kingdom.
That's right.
And that way we can use the fertilizer
Of our
past
to bloom
We get to bloom today.
not tomorrow.
You get to bloom today.
Today, amen.
A free PDF copy of the Bloom in the Dark book and a full list of Bloom Today's coaching tools can be found on bloomtodaytv.com. Then visit Bloom Today's Facebook group for deeper conversation.